There we go. Hey, everybody.
Alrighty, good evening, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the BBC, the Boardwalk Broadcasting Company. Tonight we have a very hot topic, the Searing Plague event that has been going on. But first of all, I want to introduce our guests, Mel, Bluebell, and Noslin. Kit Landria, our regular hostess, is not here this evening, so I'm going to try my best to fill in for her. We have a couple of little announcements to make. First of all, I think Noz even has a picture. We have our very, very first Boardwall baby that has been born. And this is congratulations to Scribbles and to Drax Baxton. These are a couple that actually met in our community. One was on the East Coast, one was on the West Coast. And they got to chatting and everything, and kind of like things, I guess, got hot and heavy. They ended up getting married, moving in together, and lo and behold, there's the first Boardwall baby. And that's I think something really, really special and worth mentioning. Alrighty, we are going to. I've got a little presentation video of the Searing Plague event, which we're going to be showing here in just a moment. And then after that, we've got a couple of images that Caspian released a couple of days ago that I wasn't able to sneak into the video, and we'll show those separately afterwards and then discuss them. So, Noz, if you can queue up the video. Oh, and also feel free to post questions regarding the Searing Plague in the chat channel. I think that there is a link that they are going to put out right now for you, and you'll be able to post your questions about the Searing Plague event in there. And we can't promise we'll get to all of them, but we'll try and address as many of them as we can. So, Noz, without further ado, cue video. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to try and recap what we know so far about the 6-week event that Soulbound Studios is coming out with in the very near future. So we know that there are going to be two teams. One's the Plagued and the other is the Pure. I tried watching some of the info Caspian streamed on Twitch a couple of nights ago, but it wasn't available. So I've talked to a few folks that did see it, and here is the gist of what I understand. It's going to be web-based, and I think you'll agree that the graphics so far are looking awesome. Let's take a closer look at this image Caspian posted as part of the interface. The Plagued, those who don't have a pledge package yet, will generate plague signs every 4 hours. The Pure, those who do have a pledge package, will generate purity seals every 4 hours with a chance of also generating plague signs. Now, here for me is where it starts to get interesting. We get to choose whether we want to help cure the plague or whether we want to help spread the plague. The progress being made by those trying to cure it and those trying to spread it will be monitored via 2 bars that are raised independently of each other based upon the actions of each team within the player base that's participating in the event. As these 2 bars fill up, they will trigger sub-events that are currently unknown to us, and the outcome of these sub-events will be determined upon how each group responds to them. Will those trying to spread the plague win out, or will the plague be cured? Presumably, if you're part of the Pure, you do not necessarily need to utilize your purity seals and can gather more plague signs and help spread the disease. And if you're plagued, if you receive enough purity seals, at some point you will have enough to be deemed cured and now one of the Pure. To make things even more interesting, whether you are plagued or pure, you start off at tier 0. And based upon your actions, or perhaps even your inactions, you will potentially level up to tier 1, at which point you can choose a role. The one shown in this image is the Herbalist tier 1. And you can see that they can add to the cure bar in 3 ways, with trading purity seals, in other words being active, giving the largest increase to the cure bar. If you get to tier 2, there might be actions to lower the plague bar. We'll have to see. Caspian has stated that each of the 2 teams have 8 roles, And whereas I do not know what each of the roles are, the words herbalist, corpse taker, plague doctor, undertaker, cultist, plague bringer, and thief have all been mentioned. Caspian's also mentioned that some of the items we previously bought could passively affect purity, plague, cure, or outbreaks depending on the item. Could it be that if you bought a headstone, it will add to the plague bar if it signifies another plague victim? Conversely, if you bought a wagon, will it help fight the plague by removing diseased corpses? Regardless, I expect to see some really interesting promotional items for sale in the store during this event. Some might be general items and some might be specific to your role. Keep an eye on the COE forums, not only for the announcement of the event, but also for a section that will be dedicated to members exchanging info about the event. Likewise, when it's opened, join the Searing Plague channel on the official COE Discord, where you'll be able to post your link to be cured, exchange plague signs or purity seals, find other plagued or pure members or groups to strategize with, etc. In closing, regardless of whether you choose to play in the event by helping cure the plague or helping to spread it, I wish you much fun and hope you're looking forward to it as much as I am. Cheers.
All right, we're back.
Alrighty. So that's a little bit of the information. As I say, we have a couple more screenshots that we'll get to a little bit shortly. But I don't know about you guys, but I'm absolutely pumped for this event. We already have on our, within our kingdom, we already have a spreadsheet with over 170 people, both pure and plagued, kind of like just chomping at the bit, waiting for this event to start. And we have, I don't want to call it a little bit of inside information, but apparently when I said that it's going to be starting very soon, we are talking about very, very soon. In fact, we might be making an announcement, perhaps, we don't know yet, actually, while we're live here on this stream. So it is basically on our doorstep. We just haven't heard them knocking on the door yet.
You didn't get that from me. You got that from somebody else. But yeah, yeah. Serp said almost all accurate.
Just disclaimer there.
Yeah.
I didn't get it from you.
I know.
Never said I did.
I know. I should have got the heads up, but I didn't get a warning. People don't love me as much as they used to. But Serp said that it was almost all accurate. So I mean, and we've been pulling at stuff from little snippets. You guys have put this information together. You've did an amazing job of rallying the community behind this already before it's even announced. So kudos to that, and pretty awesome video. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. I think one thing that I did not mention in the video, but obviously I think it should be apparent to everybody, and if it's not, I'll mention it now, is that if we do cure one of the plagued, these are the people that do not have the a pledge package. If we actually get to cure them, and I don't know whether it's over a certain amount of time or if they get a certain amount of purity seals, or some actions they have to do, or a combination of any of those things, they will actually get a free Illyrian package, which is pretty awesome. I think, what is that worth? $35-$40 at the moment. And when you figure that over the entire community there might be hundreds and hundreds of people cured during this event, then you're looking at what represents potentially a significant amount of money that that people have kind of like saved as a group. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Humble brag.
Very cool. Sorry, go ahead, Mel.
I'm going to need you to repeat the question, actually. Or we can skip to a new question. Oh, you sounded fine to me.
Yeah, I guess I was talking with. Did you not get any of that, you guys? I was. Anyway, so no, and it's not because I'm muted. It's because I didn't have OBS selected or something. It's weird. I guess I didn't launch it in admin mode or whatever. It's freaking stupid. But Borny has ESP or something. He's going to let us know those details. He had the SBS conference room bugged, and he's going to clue us in on those details if we don't get the announcement here during the stream. So that's good to know.
Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. So, I do know that, as I mentioned in the video, to me, what's kind of really, really interesting about this is this is where we get to make a choice. We get to shape some of the lore of the game, before launch. So, people that aren't even necessarily going to be in exposition, etc. It doesn't matter. You don't even have to have an account. You are right now going to be contributing to kind of like some of the historic events that occur before the time frame of the actual of when the game launches. And I just think it's so awesome. I've had, I mentioned we've got over 170 people already signed up for this. We had a couple of kind of like people kind of like, I don't know. I guess every community has them, and I'm not saying they were necessarily in ours. I get messages from literally all the kingdoms and all the servers, but there's always some people that are kind of like pissing and whining and, oh my God, why are they spending time on this? Why are they kind of like putting the resources into this instead of developing the game? Well, this is developing the game. It's developing part of the history of the game. The game isn't out yet, and they're kind of like, they're getting us engaged. They're getting us involved in kind of like a mini game. I don't know of another game in development that goes to that trouble, that looks after its community that way. Are they going to be selling some items? Absolutely. And, you know, this isn't kind of like a cash grab, but that's been brought up several times on the forums and in discussions on discords, etc. If you can't afford it, don't. You can participate in this without spending a single penny. As a matter of fact, as I said, if you don't have a pledge package, you can end up at the end of the event with a pledge package. But it is so important that we remain, and when I say we, I'm talking about the COE project, and the SBS remains basically independent, and that for right now that it stays crowd-funded. Because if we had to bring on a publisher at this moment in time, they would probably compromise kind of like the concept and the whole kind of like feel of the game and start saying you've got to do this, you've got to put in loot boxes, your crafting system is too in depth, you got to do this, dumb this down, you got to make this appeal to everybody, not just like half the person, and you just end up with just another generic MMO. And the team, I think, is fighting so hard to put their vision of what an MMO should be like on the table. So the more that we can support them, the better it is. And yet at the same token, I will say that, nobody should pledge, anything other than what they're comfortable with. And if that's zero, don't pledge anything. I don't think that, that in any way you're discriminated against or looked down upon, if you have no tier or tier one or anything like that. We're here as a community all together, and we all kind of like help and contribute in in a variety of ways. Nozzle, Mel, do you have any thoughts or anything to add on to that?
I think I would just say one thing, and that's if we're as excited as we are about this event when the game's not even launched, just imagine how amazing the events will be when the game is launched. I mean, think of how much hype and how much planning and how much work everyone's already putting into an event that hasn't even launched yet, and then times that by however much for when the game's actually launched and playable. And I think that's going to be really impressive.
Excellent.
You're testing me to see if I'm muted again, aren't you? I know what you're doing.
I'm reading the chat. I'm afraid I can't type with all this. I can't see very well out of this plague mask, so I can't type, but I can read. Borne apparently is asking you, Mel, that you have something you need to ask me or something.
He's
Is there a question posted that
very
that I need
proud
to
of
be aware
himself. He would like to know If you had to choose between saving Berne and Gohab from the plague, which one you would save?
Do I just have a choice of one of them, right?
Yep, either Berne or Gohab.
I'm going with
Wow.
Gohab.
Okay.
He's just so lovable, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm going
Borne's
with
cool and
Borne,
all, you
but
know. I'd love to drink a beer
that's
with him, but I mean, but
that's
Gohab is just a lifetime of fun, you know. You got to go with Gohab.
that's a separate issue. That's a kingdom issue. So let's Noz, if you can put up the image for the rolls
The rose.
that came up. It was one of the images I gave before the stream started.
It's up. Yep. It's ready.
Alrighty. So, one of the things I want to point out here is in that herbalist, we got to see kind of like, what an herbalist could do, and it was kind of like a zoom in of the three different things that they could do. But here at the bottom of this image, you can actually see, and presumably and fairly self-evidently, these 4 tier 2 roles here are from the pure side: the sage, the plague doctor, the undertaker, and the soldier, and the different roles that they are actually going to be playing on that. I think kind of like it goes without saying, there's no kind of like no brownie points if you get to guess which role I'll probably be going for. But Mel, Nos, which if you could get to any of those tier 2 roles, which would they be and why?
Nas, you go first.
I mean, I don't know. Undertaker just, I mean, it fits my theme. You know, I'm always in this dark room, so why not? I mean, when I do come out in the light, my own community picks on me and they call me Gleaming Noggin and shit like that. You know, so I'd stay in the underworld. That's where I'd be.
All right. I guess out of those 4, I would be a sage. Probably. I guess it's the one that fits me the best.
And
Out of
why?
those. I don't know. I'm sorry. Hold on. Give me a hot second. Oh, there's my other dog. Now you get to hear.
Immaculate. Just to answer your quick question that you put there in chat while Mel's dealing with her dogs there, I would definitely be the plague doctor. I mean, I think the my get up here on every show kind of like ties in directly to that. So I think that's definitely the role that I'll be going for.
I think they're done. I think.
Alrighty.
But I can't see all of that. Oh. Anyways, so sorry about my dogs. They're super excited about something outside. But yeah, basically I just think I would, out of those tiers, be a sage just for the I mean, I don't want to claim I'm super wise, but wisdom and experience and medicines, I mean, I guess, I know a couple herbs. Let's go with that.
And it's kind of hard to read the tooltips on there. We apologize. The images were captured, I'm assuming, from someone from a stream way early in the morning. I don't know where the hell those come from, but so the quality is not that great, but it gives you an idea of where they're headed with this. And, as we said earlier, hopefully we'll get an announcement soon, and we'll have much better, crisper images for you. We'll see.
Excellent stuff. Let's see.
I wasn't muted that time. Great. Oh yeah.
No.
No, you weren't.
For me, at least.
No one has had well, no, you have had a mute moment. I have not had a mute moment yet this stream. That's what I'm banking on.
So I would imagine that pretty much most of the people that start off as plagued are going to want to be cured because they're going to want to have the package, right? They're going to want to get the Illyrian package. But I've seen kind of like, some discords and everything where people, and this is awesome, I think. It's brilliant that they're doing this. There are people that are going to want to promote and spread the plague around. Do you feel that that it will kind of like be weighted a little bit, because I can imagine that there'll be a lot fewer people trying to spread the plague than there will be trying to cure it? Or do you think that kind of like the events that might be happening, and again, we don't know which they're going to be right now, do you think that kind of like if that blue bar for curing the plague kind of like gets way ahead of the red bar, that there might be a new outbreak or something like that that makes it more difficult to cure? What are your thoughts in terms of them trying to balance the mechanics going on here?
I've heard rumors of benefits to curing the plague, but I haven't heard rumors of, I mean, literal benefits to us as players for, curing the plague. I don't know if that's confirmed or not. I had to watch what I say every time I open my mouth. But so I'm curious, what are the benefits of spreading the plague? Other than I think that it may potentially open up different story arcs, or may potentially sway the lore in the event. If that happens, I don't know. That's what I'm interested to find out. Hopefully here shortly.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you, because right now there's not really an incentive for spreading, or I guess perpetuating, the plague. I know we got a question from someone. Yeah, we actually got one. Okay, if diseases can be spread in CoE, Searing Plague or otherwise, do you think individuals or kingdoms would have the gall to weaponize them? So I don't know if that would, and then they ask, would we? And I don't know if that would be an incentive for anyone, if you had the possibility, if you're like Dross and you wanted to weaponize, a disease or bioweapon or something like that. I don't see that being. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they'll make that possible. But I guess to answer the question, if you guys could, would you?
I mean, I think it would be silly not to at least have it available as a tool or as a weapon to use. I'm not saying that we would necessarily use it just arbitrarily, but people are already talking, whether it be in other kingdoms on our server, etc., of kind of like, invading us and kind of like doing a scorched earth policy where they just basically, salt all the fields and burn all the farms and demolish every settlement that's out there, and just teach us a lesson and leave us kind of like as this barren land. And again, that's all part of the game, and all part of the story and an intriguing part of it. So, if we were in that kind of like pushed into that kind of a situation, would we unleash a plague if we had the opportunity to do so upon people that were kind of like tearing the kingdom apart? Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we'd have remedies and cures and everything like that. But as they say, all fair in love and war, and that probably includes plague as well. What are your thoughts on that, Nos?
I don't know. I don't know about releasing a disease that you don't have a cure for. I don't think we'll get a cure for the plague. I think that we may be immune to it potentially, but I don't know. But yeah, I mean that very well could be weaponized. I mean, historically, different civilizations interacting with one another has had profound effects on the civilizations that were foreign to that contact. But yeah, I'd be careful opening that vial.
Yep, yeah, it's definitely a Pandora's box that you'd have to be careful with. I mean, when you look at the real life example of kind of like the Black Death in the late 1300s. I mean, you were basically looking at, depending what part of Europe you were in, et cetera, anywhere between 30 to 60% of the population was wiped out. I mean, that was huge. I mean, it literally took them best part of a century or two just to catch back up with the population numbers, etc. It affected obviously real estate prices because all of a sudden there were a lot of empty homes, etc. It affected trade, research and development, everything. And who's to say that even if we do find a cure for the Searing plague and cure it during this event, who's to say that there aren't other types of plagues that will come out when the game goes live, right? There might be, either complete new strands or mutations of it, et cetera, et cetera. Noz, if you can put up the other image, the one that had the items up at the top. Because again, as I'd mentioned in the video, what we were looking at there is Caspian had mentioned that some items that had been previously purchased would be in there, and hopefully you can see them. It's chopping off a little bit off at the top, but you can see that basically there is the way that I interpret this message is the 4 items on the left help spread the plague, and the 4 items on the right help to perhaps cure it. And you might be somebody that decides to play being the pure, and maybe you bought all 4 of those packages, which are what? It's the pilgrimage pack, the brewing pack, there's the deviant package, and the livestock package. I mean, maybe you're somebody that wants to help cure the plague, but if you happen to have bought all 4 of these packages, you might be generating so many plague signs that you have to actually kind of like, organize, beg, borrow, steal, or whatever people to send you purity seals just so that you don't actually become one of the plague yourself. And then again, if you're one of the pure and you're wanting to spread the plague and you bought these packages, you probably don't use your purity seals and you just become more and more infected and spread them around. And then the other 4 items on the right, which is the headstone, which I presume you're now burying the corpses, and so they no longer can spread or infect other people. You've got the physician set, the apitherapy, which is kind of like the bees, the bee healing kit. And then the other one, I got to look at that. What's that? Oh, it's the songbirds. Maybe they help raise morale in some way or something like that. What are your guys' thoughts on those 8 items that they chose to either increase or decrease the plague things?
Yeah, I mean, it says these, and again, I said these are poor quality, but it says these items from your inventory provide the following effects. Do you get a like a mouse over and then a description of the effect that these different items provide? That's what wasn't very clear to me. I'm interested to find out what effects or what bonuses possession of these items in your inventory. Is it as simple as giving you an additional token or something? I don't know how that's going to work. Does it play into your role, one of your roles that you selected? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know either. For example, I can see the pilgrimage supplies as helping to spread it because, maybe you're infected, but you're kind of like, traveling through several different kingdoms on your pilgrimage kind of thing, which would certainly help promote and spread the plague, right? That would be a good thing. Maybe it increases the chance of gaining plague signs, and maybe something like the pilgrimage effect increases the chance by 50%, but maybe a livestock kit only increases the chance by 20%. So it might be tied into an RNG kind of situation there. I don't know if Serp has anything that he can kind of type into the chat that might help clarify some
Serp
of
said
this.
earlier he don't give leaks, so I mean
He's being suspiciously quiet. So where's Caspian when you do need him to give a leak, right? Ah, dear. So, Mel, what are your thoughts on that?
The one that I find the most confusing are the songbirds. I'm not really sure. I mean, I think your guess as to providing morale may be the maybe a decent guess. Other than that, yeah, it's an interesting selection as something to have a bonus effect. Like I almost expected one of them to be boats, just because bringing foreign people over, and maybe the plague spreads that way. So yeah, the songbirds I think are the most yeah. I'm curious to see what effect the songbirds will actually be.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, the songbirds might actually help promote the plague. I mean, I want to make it clear that me kind of like dividing them into evenly 4 items, left and right, both for the plagued and the pure. I might be completely off. It's complete speculation on my side, but it kind of like seemed to fall into a logical thing for me to designate them that way.
Savvy Cat said the songbirds are needed to drown out the sound of all the crying and dying and death.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
dark.
Ouch. All
All
righty, yeah,
right, that's a
all
good
the
turn.
wailing people.
Oh my
Have we
gosh.
had any other questions asked, either
Oh
directly
yeah.
in the chat or on the form?
I've got a couple for you. So another by Savvy Cat was, do you believe the Searing Plague is a static historical event that once done is over, or will it possibly crop up over different ages?
I definitely think it'll crop up over different ages. Um, it's like the bubonic plague. Uh, you know, has has kind of like appeared in various eras, even in our own kind of like real life Earth history. The big one being the the Black Death, as I mentioned earlier, in the late 1300s. But there was another outbreak, I think, a couple of centuries later, and even today. I mean, I live in a little remote area, kind of like in San Diego County in California, and it's kind of like it's out in the wilds. And behind me is a mountain called Palomar Mountain. And every now and then we get kind of like little reports of, be aware of rodents. A mouse was trapped or a squirrel was trapped up here on Palomar Mountain, and it was diagnosed as carrying the bubonic plague. So it's still around even today. Thankfully with hygiene and everything like that, we don't have the outbreaks that they used to back in the late 1300s. But I mean, it's still there. I think we're definitely going to see it. What are your thoughts on that, Mel? Because you're asking the questions, but um, you're, they're not so much your questions as much as people asking them of us. What are your thoughts on it?
Right. I think it definitely could, although I almost feel like it would, unless they have it kind of like an evolving kind of plague, I think it would get kind of old to cure the same plague over and over again. So I'm not sure if maybe they would actually have uh, different plagues, different symptoms, different, because otherwise it'll get kind of predictable if we can all say, oh, well, so and so's got this symptom. They clearly have the plague. So I'm not sure, honestly. I think that plagues will definitely be a recurring one, but I'm not sure if this particular plague will be recurring across different ages. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think plague is going to be something in game that's clear that we're going to deal with, and I think other outbreaks of other um, disasters and calamities and natural disasters and all that shit's going to be thrown to us. But as far as the searing plague event, will we see that again? I don't know, but we're definitely gonna be tossed a lot of hard balls and a lot of curveballs from every angle. You can bet on that.
So maybe we get something like a different kind of plague that is only carried by leffets, so that everybody who bought those cute little leffets and kind of like wants to use them as scarves around their neck and walk about with them, maybe they're the ones that all die off or something. I don't know.
They are really cute. They
They
smile, which I think
they
is
are, and
is
that's why I
adorable.
think they would be so great as plague carriers.
Just your cheerful play carrier, just waddling around. Yeah, adorable.
Otter bears.
Alrighty.
I think it's going to be otter bears.
What
All right, money's
other?
down on otter bears for Nas.
Alrighty. What other questions were there? It sounded like there were a couple that were queued up there.
Yeah, we've got about five questions we can go through. This one I like this one. This was interesting. This was by and I'm sorry, forgive me if I mispronounce names here. Balath. Do you think we could see stat bonuses for our characters in CoE, like disease resistance, if we cure the plague soon enough? It's hypothesized that the Black Plague left impressions in the DNA of Europeans, as they seem to have a heightened immune response after surviving such a widespread sickness.
I think that's definitely a possibility. I know Dross. Dross. I can't talk. I know Dross have immunity to certain diseases. And how did they get that immunity? Is it because of this event? Is that how that came to pass? I don't know.
I thought it was
Um,
because they had to eat rotten food because they're in the
well, that
swamp.
could have something to do with it too. But
I mean, the rotten food could have made them sick with a plague, so that's
so it'll be interesting. We know that we have different characters and different tribes and it looks like Serp's zipping his lips there. But we do have different tribes that we know have built-in immunities to certain diseases, and is that something that comes out of this as part of the event that they've said is going to have a lasting impact on the server and the world that we call Illyria. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. I guess my thoughts on that would be would we build up resistance to it or become immune to it? I don't know. I guess it would be more likely of a mechanic for them to introduce if we were successful in curing the plague, right? I mean, if we don't cure the plague, then we weren't immune to it. The plague triumphed. So I don't see why we would become immune to it kind of like, later on in the game. But maybe if we cure it, maybe that would be an advantage. I'm not sure.
there's actually a good question to follow up that one, and it's kind of the flip side of it. Um, how will this event, and this is by Zelkovian, how will this event, in each of your opinions, affect the story? Will we have a plague that's generated at such volume that the active user base is unable to cure it, therefore wiping out the total number of NPCs, as in the Black Plague, or will this cure open up new avenues into herbalism, alchemy, and medicine?
Notice you go first on this one.
Sure, I can only imagine that people are going to be trying to find the fountain of youth and trying to find the magical cure. And I can also imagine that there's going to be sellers, wagon sellers going from town to town selling their snake serums and magical cures that don't do shit but give you a bellyache. So that's something that could come from it too. All the con artists and scams that want to capitalize on it.
That's something I hadn't considered. That was a good thing to think up, kind of like on the spot kind of thing. So if it's not cured, yeah, I mean I can see there being outbreaks. Maybe they become triggered again by part of the storyline. Maybe the Soulborn engine keeps track of kind of like little outbreaks here, little outbreaks there, and maybe it triggers kind of like a server wide event where all of a sudden there's a huge outbreak. Maybe the Soulborn game engine kind of like tags people who are traveling, that if they went to this certain area, they would pick it up, but they wouldn't necessarily know they had it. Maybe there's a 2-month in game, or 3-month in game incubation time or something like that, and then all of a sudden, boom! It's kind of like it's popped up in communities throughout the entire server, regardless of which kingdom you're in. I think the possibilities and the opportunities are just going to be a lot of fun. I'm not, although kind of like I'm going to be working hard to try and cure the plague, because we want to try and get as many Illyrian packages, regardless of what server you're on or which kingdom you're in. Heck, we'll even cure people that are in Vornair to get them a free Illyrian package. I view this as something that we can really, really help boost the community and get them active and engaged in. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that I'm for the outcome of the cure actually being achieved. I'd probably be just as fine with it not be. I think there's probably, knowing Caspian and the team, there's going to be an interesting storyline whether we cure it or whether we don't. Even if we cure it, I don't think that's going to be the end of it, so to speak.
Yep. I actually just thought of a possible repercussion if we don't cure it, if the plague bar fills up before the pure. I could see them actually having us start off our first kind of lifetime with a set reduced number of years, maybe, if plague wins out over pure. But that's just off the top of my head, possible repercussion for if
Like a lower life
plague.
expectancy.
Yeah, just for like that first lifetime,
Huh.
the plague wins.
Interesting.
But that's just a pure speculation of something that could actively affect you in game if this event. But yeah, not sure. It'll be interesting. Like I said, because as far as we know right now, there aren't incentives for the plague to really win out over pure. I don't really see it happening, but we'll know more soon, I guess.
Yeah.
There was a question in the chat, just real quickly. What from Savvy Cat? Another one from Savvy Cat. Savvy Cat's awesome. But what symptom do you think will be prevalent to have caused this plague to be called the Searing plague? I don't know.
Well, there was a lot of inference when it first was named that to do with STDs, but I'm not necessarily sure that that's going to be the case.
What Discord you been in, D?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Maybe ones that weren't COE related, and I'm just getting confused between the two or something. I don't know. But now you throw me off my freaking train of thought. But I'm thinking that, or I'm hoping that, at least in game you get something like, they're called plague signs, right? So obviously they're hopefully some kind of visible symptom, like some kind of, burning boils or something like that, that just make the person who's infected just feel like they're burning up, or a high fever or a high temperature, and I don't know, maybe they need to have the equivalent of ice packs put on them. I don't know, but I think there'll be something visible and kind of like hopefully it's repulsively visible, so that we get to see it.
That was 2 kids, Mel. One more. I told you it was going to happen 3 times. Kids were going to come in here and bother me since Mama's out. Mama's out having fun tonight and left me with all the kids by myself.
And we have time, I think, for 1 or 2 more questions before we wrap up.
Okie dokie. All right, let's see. I'm going to paraphrase your question, Gorwin, just because we kind of answered a little bit already what we think will happen if the plague isn't cured. But the second part of your question, do we think it'll be more likely to push medical research in our towns, counties, duchies, kingdoms, etc., earlier or faster once the game launches if the plague wins? Do you guys think yay or nay? Why? Why not? Sorry.
I think that these events will come regardless of what research and development we've done. But I think the amount that we research and development, on kind of like, the apothecary, the doctor kind of level, that we might be better equipped to handle it. So instead of it lasting, for 10, 20 in-game years, we might be able to contain it and kind of like quarantine it within just a matter of like, a couple of years. And if we don't have the research at hand, maybe it becomes an epidemic. maybe we do get the equivalent of 30 to 60% of people dying off. I don't know how that affects, kind of like, you have to look at kind of like, the little sub things of, how pissed off would people be if they had to use another spark of life, if they had no control over the fact that they just rolled a character and then 5 real life days later he's dead from the plague and permadead, you know? So I think, they have to be careful on some of that stuff. But I can see it. I can see it kind of like, having something similar to that.
Yeah, Jackson Gore. Gore was saying that would this speed up your research on medicines and whatnot, and I think that's going to be true, not just with plague or anything like that, but I say this all the time. I think that we all have these great ideas of what we're going to do at launch, and then I kind of giggle to myself because I'm going to have the most fun seeing all these damn different plans just go to shit and how people are going to react and recover from that. And I think all of us are going, I mean, that's going to be our challenges, is going to be adapting to the different things that are thrown to us. And you have this hard set mentality. This is what I'm going to focus on. And then day one, your region is plague ridden. And nope, we're not focusing on boats today, fellas. We're focusing on medicine. Yeah, so that's going to happen a lot.
Excellent.
Okay.
Time for one more if we have one still, Mel.
All right.
Then
We
we'll
will
wrap up.
end on Bernie's got a kind of fun one to end on. What kind of promotional items do you think will be sold in the store for people to fight off the plague, considering chainmail bikinis apparently have an effect? I'm sure there will be some interesting things. So, do you guys have a off the cuff idea of a new promotional item that could be related to the plague? Because I'm hardcore banking on a plague mask for D.
I think there'll probably be a plague mask. What I would like to see is what if there was for the plagued people, if you could purchase a flea circus.
That would be
And
so fun.
yeah, you would have your own kind of like tamed fleas and everything like that, and they could help spread the plague. You could kind of like go into town and have your little flea circus because people weren't aware back then that it was fleas that caused that caused and helped spread the plague.
But
And you could be a traveling kind of like flea circus guy that really spreads this stuff all around.
but knowing that, Mel, you could wear that chainmail bikini everywhere, and it would make you less likely to catch the plague. Because you would see the fleas on you, you knock them off.
I thought for
You should
sure
wear it 24/7 in game.
we would
That's
get
what I'm
out of
getting
the
at.
stream without this coming up. We were almost done, Oz. We almost made it to the end of the stream without this.
Well, we
being a
might
thing.
want to hold on for just a minute because I have eyes everywhere, and Caspian literally 2 seconds ago just posted a drop in official updates.
Yep, he did.
So I
Open
don't know
this up
how
super
I
quick.
do this, but I like watch everything at all times. So Borne told me, he sent me a message from his bug in the conference room that it was coming. And I've been paying attention. Sure enough, it's there. It just dropped. That's cool.
It doesn't look like there's. It looks like.
It says the Searing plague begins tomorrow, and
It looks like it's more lore, kind of like a short little story.
Should we take a look at it on stream? Does everybody want to see that?
Yeah. Can you somehow put your
there it is
screen up on the thing? And yeah.
Yeah, if somebody wants to read it, I'll scroll and we'll do this thing.
Somebody read it. I can't see out of this plague mask. Funny enough.
What follows is the entry from Volume 5 of the Keeper's accounts documenting Anara Starsong's vision in her own words. Though accounts from the time of the Searing Plague are plentiful, the exact events are unclear. This terrible disease tore through Illyria for 3 long years, bringing suffering and death to every corner of the world. What I can tell you, what I have seen, is that it was the region of Menace which was hit first, a fertile region, known as much for its family farms handed down for dozens of generations as its stately trees dripping with moss or highland passes accessible year-round. The region was a jewel and therefore settled by several tribes who took advantage of its meandering rivers and mild winters to grow their crops. The bards still pass tales of the whisper of the plague's approach. Several songs and tales are about the rumored start in a single farmstead, with the rare and expensive delivery from the high mountain passes. The song is often sung as a tale to children to warn against stepping above one's station. Nestled in Menace's foothills, the sprawling Jask plantation is where the plague symptoms were first observed. Raylan Jask had been shunned by her jealous neighbors and was frequently the subject of local gossip after she had married into wealth. In an effort to improve her image and as a show of love and good faith toward the people she was once close with, Raylan invited everyone far and wide, common and noble, to her son's upcoming wedding. Intending to hand over the reins of the plantation to him after this soiree, she was determined to host the most extravagant celebration anyone had ever attended. She contracted a large order of a costly and rare indulgence, ice. The celebration was an affair to remember, with revelry and dancing through the night. The wedding was so lively that even the nobles heard stories about it. And when the next morning the guests complained of parched, sore throats and stinging eyes and proclaimed themselves too tired to work, no one was surprised. But in their haste to blame good times and strong liquor, they missed the signs that all recognize today as the start of the outbreak. To be continued. Check back throughout the Searing Plague event to learn how this harrowing tale of Illyria's past unfolded. And the Searing Plague begins tomorrow.
Excellent. You heard it here first, folks.
Heard it here.
Yeah. All righty. So, with that, we will wrap up actually the live stream, the video part of this, and we invite everybody. Fuck my old age and not being able to remember. Serp, is it the inn or the tavern that we always go to? I don't know. I'm waiting for him to reply.
It's going to be the inn. Yeah, it's the inn.
It's going to be the inn. So what we do after this is we basically all pile into the inn, and we certainly have this to discuss in the official COE Discord. We thank you all for joining us and watching yet another BBC live stream. And normally the auditors are in there about 3-4 minutes after you guys are in there, but feel free to start talking, discussing, and making plans. Thank you, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.